man, you need to buy yourself a gun. What? A gun? Oh. What? Like a handgun. For personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Check for the cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
Riots in the streets, riots on Wall Street. It's Tuesday. We are live. This is PrimerTime. My name is Michael, and I do not invest in that crapshoot casino.
I'm Nick, and even though I did for a period of time, my stuff still didn't take that much of a beating.
Well, that's what you get when you invest in like drone technology and nuclear bombs.
Well, it's the only stuff that keeps on giving, right?
That's right. That's our number one industry, thanks to our manufacturing base. So,
we also manufacture Kardashians. Don't forget, we're leading.
Yes, we do. We lead the world in production of Kardashian and Kardashian related items.
That is correct. One might say we're actually leading the way in creating transgender folks too, but I don't know. I haven't seen European numbers on that.
I don't. Let's talk about European numbers real quick. Let's talk about 3 servicemen who take down an AK wielding gunman.
So let's get the story straight. So it's not 3 servicemen. It's 1 National Guardsman. It was 1 Air Force guy. And then a college student. There was also a professor, an American professor teaching in France. There was a German businessman, and then another French individual who declined to be named. But yeah, the big thing is that Europe has a big problem with terrorism, and specifically in France, they've had quite a few instances in the last couple years. This would have been a pretty bad black eye for them, and I think that. They're
well, and on top of that, they had another shooting today in France. So once again, we see that the gun-free zone doesn't necessarily work. The gun-free zone becomes a killing ground.
Yeah,
I believe it was in the city of Wa, which is in the Somme, and Wa is spelled R-O-Y. They called it a travel. They called it a travelers camp, which I guess you can't say gypsy anymore, but that's what it was. It was a gypsy commune, and there was a shooting today, three dead. And, pretty much all of France is a gun-free zone. You cannot use a firearm for self-defense in France.
No,
so
it makes it pretty difficult to take care of yourself, that's for sure.
Right. So regarding this guy on the train, some interesting information about the rifle came out. Turned out it was an AKM in 7.62 by 39. Now, the difference between an AKM and the multitude of other AK-47s out there are minimal. It's really it's enough to where it just becomes jargon. But what was interesting about this is this rifle was not factory built. This rifle was built on an East German lower receiver, and then all the parts and the barrel gas tubes were scavenged from other rifles. So this was a parts kit rifle that shouldn't have been available in France and was used in this crime.
Well, yeah, but take a look at, the individual boarded the train in Amsterdam. So it's not like he was taking this from places in France. The individual was known to quite a few European nations. Spain specifically had a terror warning and alert on this guy. So you have open borders in Europe, so you can freely travel anywhere between all the European Union countries. And from what I understand, this guy is a Moroccan. So France has quite a few Moroccans living there, as well as in Spain too. So it's not inconceivable that he couldn't get free movement throughout the EU and be able to pick up wherever he needed, whenever he needed it.
Okay, now this rifle was supposedly found in a park prior to him getting on the train. And
sounds very similar to the illegal alien in San Francisco. He found that service pistol, in a park bench.
That's right. I'm wondering why I can't just walk around and find, semi-automatic rifles laying all over the place. And actually, this wasn't a semi-automatic. This was a full automatic rifle. Yeah. Just kind of interesting just to see that. Once again, the gun-free zone equals the killing zone for the criminal.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of sometimes you have people who are willing to invest a little bit of skin in the game and do something that's pretty remarkable when you think about it. The three guys were paying attention enough to really overpower the dude. Some of the people were injured with gunshots. The individual was shot in the neck. This could have easily been something that was much more deadly than what it was at first.
Right, and once again, the news is pushing the fact that he claims that he found it, and they seem to keep on pushing that, which I can almost understand finding a rifle somewhere. I mean, crime happens and things happen, and I guess somebody could chuck a rifle, but usually if they chuck a rifle, they don't also chuck like 7 loaded magazines, right?
Yeah. They don't make those available.
Right. So, it was very interesting. The rifle, it is compact. It's got a side folding stock on it, and with it looked to be like a 14-inch barrel on it to me. So it's kind of a short weapon, which would be actually easily concealable underneath items of clothing.
Which would be illegal in the United States, as it's not a 16-inch barrel.
Well, unless you got the stamp and all that kind of stuff, which
I don't think
I ain't playing.
He would be paying attention to.
Yeah, really. I mean, if you're going to break one law, you might as well break a couple of them at this time.
That's right.
So, found that to be interesting. And then, something I'd really like to cover right off, and this is actually pretty important. Savage Arms has issued a recall, and it's on their B-Mag bolt-action rifle in 17 Winchester Short Magnum, which is a kind of a newer cartridge. If you've got a Savage Arms B-Mag 17 Winchester Short Magnum, please contact Savage Arms at www.savagearms.com, and they have a great big tag about the recall on there. I would not fire the rifle. I would follow exactly what the recall says.
Yeah, and this seems to be another recall related to safe action and the bolt actually tripping the safety into the firing position. So definitely you want to go ahead and get that retrofit done. Savage Arms out of Westfield, Massachusetts will go ahead and take care of that for you.
Yeah, they're pretty good people. They make a decent product 99% of the time, and they have good customer service, so it's worth your time to have that rifle taken care of correctly.
Yep.
Something else found that was pretty interesting in the legal sense today. An appeals court in Milwaukee has found that unlawful immigrants have a Second Amendment right.
Wow.
Right.
That sounds a little bit far-fetched to me.
So this comes out of the Milwaukee, Wisconsin Journal Sentinel, And in the case of a Milwaukee man deported over a single .22 caliber cartridge, a federal appeals court ruled last week that even unlawful immigrants can be a part of the public that enjoys a Second Amendment right to keep a gun for self-defense.
Wow.
Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals said even undocumented immigrants can be a part of the people protected by the Bill of Rights, though it upholds the man's conviction on a specific law that prohibits most such people from having a gun. It is now clear that the Second Amendment right to bear arms is no second-class entitlement, and we see no principled way to carve out the Second Amendment and say that the unauthorized or maybe all non-citizens are excluded. Judge Diane Wood wrote for a panel that included Judge Frank Easterbrook and Joel Flom. So that's really interesting. So if we're now looking at illegal immigrants and granting them constitutional protections and the God-given right to own a firearm, what else are we going to give them now?
Well, here's the thing.
Do we even have a country left?
Take a look.
Do we even have a country left at that point?
Well, you have a country left, but it's not a country for the white European settlers who came here in the 16 and 1700s. That those days are long gone. What you have now is you've got a group of citizens who have been identified as the next voting bloc that is going to really change the course of this country. It's, everybody was making a big thing about, gerrymandering or political redistricting a couple of weeks ago, and it was the black vote versus the white vote, and I think that was all misdirection, because what you have now is you have illegal immigrants that now are apparently, at least in this appellate court district for the federal government, that are going to be entitled to have firearms when legally federal law stipulates you can't. So I think what we have here is we've got a problem with, the laws are not catching up with the situations in which Americans find themselves, and you already have illegal immigrants who say and have defenders and advocates on their side that say, you know what, just because they're here without papers doesn't mean that they're not Americans.
Well, it's hard to argue with that completely. I mean, truly, how do you argue with that when their whole argument is based on, well, pure idiocy? I mean, with the violation of the law, with never mind the intent and the spirit of the law, but just complete outright violations of the law. I don't know how you can argue with that.
Well, the interesting thing is that I think what we're seeing right now is laws as they relate to firearms. They're open and subject to interpretation by, it seems, anybody with a mouthpiece. So, if you're going to be the law-abiding citizen and you're going to be the one that actually takes that right and exercises that right to own a firearm, you can have your firearms confiscated for the smallest offense. However, if you're somebody that's not here legally and it has already broken laws to get here, you're more than welcome to, apparently.
Well, it just looks like it's more destruction of the nation at every point, and it all, to be honest, it sounds like a Bernie Sanders commercial to me.
Yeah, well, I'm not big on socialism, so I don't really listen to anything that guy says.
I listen to him because, not because I like him, but I already know what the Republicans are going to say, and to be honest with you, I can't participate in the two-party system because it tastes great, less filling with your vote being counted by Diebold at the end. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you've got taste great or less filling, what's your option, really?
Well, yeah. Well, what's yours really? Stop drinking, I guess. That's probably the best option at that point. Because really, we're just, as a nation, we're drunk on this. We're drunk on, well, the ease and the convenience of everything. And, well, be honest with you, we are going to be a third world service economy. And, people have made some interesting remarks regarding the recent, yesterday and today's activity in the stock market. And, it might be kind of a good idea to start thinking about value-priced firearms again, and how value-priced firearms can actually be a serious asset to you, probably at some point, which could be invaluable, worth far more than the gold or cash or silver or whatever you can pony up with. I don't know if you agree with me, but I kind of have a feeling you do.
Well, I think that put it this way: anybody that can own a firearm, you should. If for nothing else, then at the sheer end of the day, when it comes to being able to defend yourself, anybody that's in their right mind shouldn't have to depend on somebody else or depend on somebody else to come defend them. You think, hey, you go to work, you do your job, you get your paycheck every 2 weeks, you put food on the table, you put a roof over their heads. But what else do you really do to take care of your family? And a lot of people that I know tend to buy firearms. And whether that's something that's a high-end model, that's a personal choice. But I think in today's economic times, as we've seen in the last 3 or 4 days, I think that people are going to start being a little bit more tight with their money. And, you might be seeing quite a few folks going out there and buying some High Points or some Jennings.
Now, let's talk about these two, all right? So, all right, we brought up High Point, which, in the firearms world, it kind of gets a bad rap, where it really shouldn't, because it is a functional pistol if certain criteria are met. And the biggest criteria for a High Point is, does it have a good magazine? And really, the only way to find that out is to go out and shoot. But, barring the poor magazine, the High Point is a well-designed, it's a functional weapon. It's not necessarily a combat weapon, but it does exactly what it's designed to do. It goes bang when you pull the trigger.
Right.
It comes in at about $200 brand new.
And that's
there's not a lot of things out there.
I was going to say that would be the first choice for a lot of people that are operating on a budget, or maybe even for a first-time buyer. You don't want to spend a ton of money into something that you're not going to, fall in love with, and you understand that this is just a functional tool. That may be a good way for you to go.
Now, you also brought up the Jennings. The Jennings may come in at a very similar price point. Jimenez, Jennings, Jimenez, Brico, Raven, Sundance, all of these very basic, similar pistol designs. These are also referred to as Ring of Fire pistols. I would say I would avoid the Jennings or the Jimenez Brico line in deference to the High Point. I do not think that the quality is there. I think they're actually sort of dangerous firearms.
Yeah, they have been known to go kaboom. I think they call them the Friday night specials.
Saturday night specials, that's right. And Friday night, because they usually blew up before the other ones did.
Yeah. Somebody got to go earlier.
Now, and I can't say this. I can speak from an educated position on the High Point or the Jennings pistols, having owned a few of them. And I've owned them in 9mm, I've owned them in 22, and I've owned them in 380. And to be honest with you, the 22 was functional, but 22 is a very low-pressure cartridge, and it's a very simple, straight blowback action. Very little to go wrong with it. And I got about 300 rounds out of it before I sold the pistol. It wasn't a bad exchange. I think I paid $69 for the pistol when it was brand new. And, it was a good learning experience. It was $70 worth of education, and which I recouped on the sale. I cannot say the same for the 380. The 380 was a pile of crap. Took it and immediately went to take it apart to clean it as soon as I got it, because usually if you buy one of these lower-end pistols, you're not going to get one that's been superbly maintained. Generally, it's usually it's going to be somebody who's probably never cleaned it, doesn't know how to take it apart, is the guy you're going to buy it from. The Jennings came apart fairly easy, went back together easily, and in 380, and fired a few rounds through it. And there's a little retaining pin that fits on the back of the spring that pushes the firing pin, and there's a little hook on that pin, and it broke. And that pretty much disables the firearm. And the little part costs like $37.
Makes it California compliant.
It's California compliant. It's on the roster. Anyways, that little part costs $37. And to be honest with you, that pistol's like $129 brand new.
Yeah, so you got about 25% of the cost right there.
Right, in a part that weighs less than 3 grams. So it's just really kind of not where you want to put your money if you're looking if your money is to the point where you have to look for the value pistol. You don't necessarily want to go with the Jennings or the Bryco or the Phoenix Arms or the Sundance Industry or the Raven or anything like that. I would definitely say go with the High Point at that point, at that juncture. Just you're getting a hell of a lot more reliability out of it. High Points also have a lifetime warranty, no matter who the owner is. If you've got a problem with it, you can send it back to the factory. They will fix it or send you a new one.
Oh, well,
so it is a made in America product. It is all United States made. Now that being said, they're still ugly. They're not going to be on any. They're not going to be on any rap videos. They're not going to be in any video games.
Oh, damn. I was going to look for one when I wanted to go out and see Straight Outta Compton in theaters.
Yeah, your Glock 40 Problem Solver is not going to be in that movie.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So, and if we're going to, like, look at our budget at about $200, there's a few steps I would take maybe before I went to the High Point for self-defense, for home defense. I would, if my budget is $200, I'm thinking purely of home defense, I'm more looking at a shotgun.
Yeah, certainly.
And
that's probably also going to be the only thing that really can fit inside that $200 budget.
Well, you've also got, there's several things that fit inside that $200 budget. None of them are super high-quality firearms, but they do work. There's a bunch of different shotguns out there, used and brand new, at about the $200, give or take 10% range. Hawk Industries, which I almost hate to give them any kind of press because it is the Chinese. It's made by Norinco. It's a copy of a Remington 870, and it functions. It functions well. The New England Firearms partner is also a copy of the 870, also made by Hawk Industries, which is actually, I believe it's Jiangsu Prefecture something, and which is just a subsidiary of Norinco. And those work well, and those come in under $200 as well.
Yeah, now, here's the thing, and anybody that knows anything about China is that Norinco has been on and off of prohibitive business practices in the United States because of the embargoes that we've had with China over the years. But Norinco itself...
Well, the embargoes that we've had with China, we should explain that. The embargoes have been on small arms from China, and that's the only thing we embargo on China.
Yeah,
and it's not even small arms. It's basically center fire ammunition and pistols, rifles. Shotguns are legal. Chinese shotguns are for sale in the United States.
Yeah. And the reason is that it goes all the way back to the 1989 Tiananmen Square incident where the Chinese decided to go ahead and squash a democracy protest. So,
well, it also has to do with during the time of the Clinton gun ban. Norinco had a large market share. I mean, you could buy a brand new AK-47 for $129, and that was not on sale. That was a regular everyday price. And Norinco they were pushing whatever they could to the United States because, the appetite was unlimited in the United States. So they were taking things that were coming off of what would be considered a machine gun line and welding up a hole and, slapping it into a styrofoam box and putting it up for commercial sale. Well, there's a law. The ATF looks at a machine gun as once a machine gun, always a machine gun. So basically that means you can't take a machine gun, something that has been a machine gun at one time, demill it or turn it into semi-auto. That just doesn't work without a whole bunch of exemptions. Well, Norinco didn't care. Norinco shipped them in anyways, and there's actually a series of Norincos that were imported. I believe it was by Land Bear out of New York, B West out of Arizona, and CRMB out of California. And those were Type 56 straight off the line. You can see where the weld hole, has been placed for the third pin. And it's a Triangle 86, and that's pretty much that's a Chinese military weapon right there. That's just been turned into commercial sales.
Yeah. Well, the Chinese do have their QBZ-95 rifles. That's the standard service arm that they have, that they employ across the People's Liberation Army.
And that's got interesting round to it, doesn't it? That's a proprietary China only round.
Yeah,
That's
it is, and
anywhere.
they're moving away from their SKSs that had the 7.62 and the family of 7.62 by 39 rounds, and they're moving into that. I think it's a 5.8.
It's a 5.8 by 24.
Yeah, you're not going to find that on the shelf at Gander Mountain.
It is not going to be there, and to be honest, the Chinese are not selling that to anybody. That is a proprietary Chinese cartridge, and it's pretty highly sought after. If you can get it, you could probably make some bucks selling that to the government, I'd guess, right now.
Yeah.
I've actually seen some pretty in-depth reporting on the QZB carbine, and it's pretty nice. It's a bullpup styled piston-driven rifle, and gives you a 20-inch barrel in a very compact package with the sturdiness of the piston operation. And
right, so Michael, for our listeners, let's go ahead and let's cover what a bullpup action is as compared to a standard configuration.
All right, a bullpup would be a rifle that actually puts the trigger group and the rifle's muzzle, or not the muzzle, the breech in the firing mechanism further back into what would traditionally be known as the stock area. So you'd end up putting all of that rather in front of your face. It would be closer to your shoulder, which gives you the ability to have a much longer barrel in the same or shorter package.
Right. So what you're going to see is if you can visualize it, whereas on a standard semi-automatic magazine-fed rifle, you would have the magazine and the magazine well in front of the trigger guard area and the bolt face area.
Usually with the bullpup, you'll find the magazine to be behind your behind your hand and in behind the trigger guard area.
Right. So that's what does allow you to have that extra couple of inches for the barrel, which adds to your muzzle velocity and will actually affect your accuracy at longer distances.
Now, I don't have a whole lot of experience shooting with bullpups, especially factory-made bullpups. The ones I have always been Ramline or somebody's kit that's been made into it. I've noticed that some of the rifles that have been back engineered to take a bullpup kit, they seem to have excessive recoil.
Yeah, they do, because once again, you're operating on a piston-driven operation, and that piston system is throwing a operating rod all the way back to recycle that next round. So you're going to get a little bit added kick instead of having a direct impingement gas system that's doing the work of cycling that next round and ejecting the previous round. You're actually having that piston arm doing that. So you're feeling that kinetic energy coming back at you.
Well, and if you can combine the shorter overall package with a longer barrel, I think you've kind of got a winning package there. It looks like there's only like 3 or 4 countries that actually field a bullpup rifle, and one would be England, I believe, fields that in the L1A3.
Yeah, I can give you two right off the bat. I know for certain that Ireland uses Steyer's AUG, and Austria uses that as well. It's interesting because you would figure that, coming out of Europe, it's standardized to the NATO round of the 5.56 by 45, but it can also shoot 9 by 19. So that's kind of interesting, just depending upon what.
Yeah, I do like that option in that new Steyr. But I'm a fan of pistol caliber carbines, and that's not necessarily the end all be all of everything. But to me, they're just a hell of a lot cheaper to shoot and a little bit more fun to shoot. Yeah.
So I mean, when people think of a bullpup rifle, the Steyr is almost the first thing that comes right off the bat. Like I said, Ireland uses it. Austria has used it. Australia uses it, and I actually got to go out and shoot some of those in Afghanistan with some of our Australian Air Force folks. But like I said, they're in use widely throughout South America and the South Pacific island nations. But they're not really in use across Africa and North America. So that's interesting.
Well, I think in Africa, you're going to have to take a look at who's who's running that. And, well, it looks to be the Chinese, because we actually have a fairly interesting development in Djibouti, which that's just too much fun to say on the radio.
Yeah, certainly.
Camp
Lemonnier,
which was a United States drone base in Africa to help with our war on terror and people living on top of oil. We were kicked out of it. America got our lunch handed to us.
Yeah, we haven't been kicked out of it for sure yet, but the government of Djibouti is telling America that your time is limited, and what Camp Lemonier's purpose is that is the only African nation that has agreed to having a U.S. Armed Forces presence on the continent of Africa. We have a command called Africa Command, and nowhere in the continent of Africa do they want this command headquartered. So it's actually headquartered out in Germany in Stuttgart.
So let's look at this, because to take our place at this base, to take the United States place, it's going to go to a Chinese army, or to the Chinese army, not a Chinese army. And it looks like they were getting ready to put 10,000 soldiers there.
Yeah, and it very well may be a Chinese army. They have 53 of them. So, that's
once again, you learn something new every day on PrimerTime.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You've got the Chinese that are willing to come in there and kind of handle infrastructure and development in a different way. The United States and its partners in the war on whatever this week, we tend to do things from a 1950 standpoint of we're going to come in there, we're going to throw a lot of money at a problem, and we're going to tell your local contractors what we want done, and then we're going to pay you afterwards. Whereas the Chinese kind of employ a different method, and they go in there and do everything themselves. But as they're doing it themselves, they're moving in an entire population. Right.
I'd like to take a look back at I believe it was in Kenya that the Chinese have established a rail line, and to get the rights to the rail line, they've basically rebuilt the city.
Yeah, and like I said,
if you really want to look at it, we've got some friends in Nicaragua, and the Nicaraguan government is in an agreement right now to build an alternate to the Panama Canal through Nicaragua, which would be about 3 times the size of it. So, stock up, buy some ammo, because they outnumber us like 18-1.
Yep, certainly do.
It's are the numbers actually 8-1, 18-1, or something like that? What is the outnumbering?
Well, they have well over 1 million people in just their paramilitary police force. So what does that tell you? We're not even talking about People's Liberation Army, which is probably closer to 3 million.
That's just an outrageous number. That's probably 6 times what our military strength is, right?
Well, our Army strength is sitting right now at 540,000, and we're supposed to drop 60 here by the end of the fiscal year.
Yep. All right, so let's take this in another direction. And, Nick, this is something that you've had some experience with. I've had some experience with. And in light of recent events, this might be worthy of coverage. Let's talk about the hunter's favorite, the MRE.
Oh, my goodness. What would you like to know about,
Well, let's just kind of give what the idea of an MRE is.
So what an MRE is, and that's an acronym because the Army loves acronyms, it stands for Meal Ready to Eat. And it is basically that. It is a meal. It will make a turd. Nothing else.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate right there. Now these are shelf stable meals, not necessarily dehydrated or anything. They are already prepared, ready to go. All you got to do is rip open a bag and eat. They have flameless ration heaters, which operate very similar to a hot pack. You drop water into some, I forgot what the chemical is that's in the bag, and
it ends up generating hydrogen gas. So, yeah, you gotta be careful with it. I have seen them set aflame. Wouldn't say that I've done that, but that's one of those interesting things that sometimes the meal itself is not the best part of the meal ready to eat. Sometimes
no, it's the fireworks that come with the bag.
Exactly. Whether it be the what we used to get, what was the little glass bottle of Tabasco sauce that you couldn't open up unless you had a wrench due to the shrink wrap. That's good for keeping you awake at night, as well as the MRE heater, which is actually got on the instructions that in order to use it, you have to place it up against a rock or something. So
that's right. It does say rock or something on it.
Yes, it does. So yeah,
and it has an illustration in case you can't read.
Yeah, if you don't know what a rock or something is, it will actually show you.
So an MRE usually consists of an entree, a side dish, a convenience pack, which may have salt, pepper, sugar, gum, matches, toilet paper, maybe wet wipe,
creamer, and a baby wipe. You will also have a chiclet-style bubble gum that is rumored to be a laxative.
I've heard that it's a not only is it a laxative, but it's also an amphetamine, which kind of would work out the same.
I can tell you, it's not an amphetamine. I can tell you that 100%.
What now? There's also varied drink mixes in it, and in these MREs, it's not one standard menu. There's several different menus.
Yeah, certainly. And not only that, but the menus do change over time. Some of the fan favorites have been phased out, which is a pretty sad deal because we used to have something that was called the Sawdust Cookie Bar or the Oatmeal Cookie Bar for those who just read the label, and it literally looked like a piece of compressed plywood.
But did it taste good?
Well, as long as you had about a gallon of water to drink with it, it was not bad.
Now, if you were to eat it, would it swell up in your stomach?
I don't know that it would swell up in your stomach, but I'll tell you what, it would probably supply a good deal of the 2,500 calories or so that comes in the total meal.
And that's pretty much another hallmark of these, that MRE contains between 2,200 and 2,700 calories per each one.
Right. So and the whole idea behind an MRE is that it's not to be consumed all at once, because it is considered to be the entire day's caloric intake, depending upon the workload of the individual. They're meant to be, taken apart, eaten a little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe use your main entree as your dinner meal, and then just snacking on the rest of the stuff throughout the day. Because there are things like, shelf stable bread, pound cakes, things like that go in there that have the carbs, and they actually also have the calories to sustain you.
Now, last time I ate an MRE was probably about 2 months ago.
Oh, and you're a braver man than I am.
Well, I had one, and it was honestly, I was just being lazy, and I didn't want to go out and get any food that was right there, and it wasn't bad, and it wasn't necessarily good, but it filled the need for that moment,
and it will fill the bowl for the next 3 days. That's for sure.
It was rough the next morning. I'll be honest with you. It was not pleasant. And we're not going to turn this into a gastric discussion, but yeah, these are things to be aware of when you buy these and consume these.
Well, here we'll bring it back and make it relevant for the firearms crowd. You can take the MRE heating element. You can take it. It is self-contained inside of a paper wrapping, so that goes inside of the bag. Once you use some water to heat it up, you can actually go ahead and take that bag and put it inside of a Gatorade bottle is about good size, and throw that up with fill it up with some water, and then duct tape the lid. You'll have a pretty nice explosive device there.
That's pretty good. That's exactly what we need to talk about.
Which is exactly what would be banned under the internet traffic of regulations.
Right. We couldn't discuss the firearms accessories, or exactly the best way to blow up MRE bags.
Exactly. So
let me ask you further on the MRE subject, just because I it's something we don't really get to talk about, and in light of the coming crash, I'll tell you, I've seen more MRE advertisements on my internet browsing in the last 2 days than I probably ever have.
Oh, that's probably.
Do you happen to have a favorite flavor?
I have over time come to be able to tolerate certain MREs. Certain MREs I actually kind of looked forward to. If I had the chance to open the box, I would grab, one or two before anybody else could. If I had that feeling, there were also some that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. And I will tell you that the two MREs out of all time that ever made me sick, like physically sick, was we used to call it tuna with poodles, which was actually tuna with noodles, and then the chicken a la king. Anything that was that had a white sauce, for whatever reason, just didn't agree with me.
See, now I'm going to have to agree with you. I've eaten the chicken a la king, and I'll give you my story about the MREs. I used to work for a company, and well, when Y2K was happening, they were pretty concerned that this was going to affect them. So they bought a lot of MREs, and we had several different stations around town, and they loaded us up on MREs. Well, we didn't make jack shit for money, to be honest with you. So when the world didn't fall apart, we just started eating the MREs because, well, they were free and we were broke.
There you go.
I did not like chicken a la king. I found chicken a la king to be, whether it was hot, whether it was cold, it was somewhat distasteful. I also did not enjoy the chicken and dumplings flavor.
Yeah,
I thought that
anything that had a white sauce in it was guaranteed to make you sick.
Right. I'm also not a fan of some of the heavier tomato based ones. And
I disagree with you there.
I'm gonna have to say that the tomato-based Hispanic flavors, with the large air quotes around it. Sorry to my Mexican brothers out there, but the MRE tamales were pretty goddamn bad.
Yeah, I've never had one with tamales, but I will tell you that the chili mac and spaghetti, I could eat those cold. Absolutely not a problem. Maybe that's because I'm a product of the chili mac generation.
Right. I remember Potato Fest 1988.
Yes. So that absolutely was no problem. Back in my younger days, when I was not politically correct, we had something that was just called the ham slice MRE. And for any of my service member brothers or sisters out there that's been to the desert, we would commonly throw those to the little Muslim children in those lands, and they would eat them like it was Ramadan times 10. They would tear them up, and they would ask us what it was, and we would tell them, "Oh, it's goat meat." They loved it.
That's just mean. You violating their covenant with the invisible man in the sky and all that shit.
Hey,
all right. So
whatever works, right?
We're looking at a cost of about $7 to $13 on an MRE for the consumer. A package of them or a carton of them usually comes with a case of 12, and those end up being about $70 a piece, $65 a piece for a carton of them. They all have date codes on them. Do you know how to read the date codes on those?
No, but actually, instead of the date codes, what they used to have, and I still see it, is there is a shelf-stable indicator warning. Basically, it turns the color, because if you've ever opened up a batch of bad MREs that have turned, that's something you'll never forget. And I actually had the
what happens when an MRE turns? Because everything is either retort packed or it's vacuum sealed. So would it bubble up like it's got botulism, or?
Well, that's one of the things. You're always concerned about some kind of bacterial infection, and I think that just over a certain amount of time, the stock has to be rotated at the depot level before it actually gets sent out to the field logistics agencies. It just happened to be a bad one. And of course, I was in the Republic of Korea. So, we get the last of everything that the Army is getting rid of. We got it. And that was about 1997. And went to go open up a bag, and I was able to clear a whole tent, and it wasn't anything that I did personally.
So you really couldn't take credit for it.
No, I would have liked to. However, it was
done a little dance to celebrate.
it was so foul that I remember. Yeah, we couldn't use that tent for about 2 days afterwards.
That's pretty bad, and that was just the contents of that bag rotting.
Yeah, just the contents of that bag were rotten. I think that was the first and only time I've ever seen that happen.
So that to be honest, that package had to be compromised in some way.
At some point, these come inside a heavy plastic packaging. For the uninitiated, you would need to use a knife or something. But until you develop the manual dexterity of opposable thumbs, you're going to need some help getting that bag open.
And it's a fairly thick plastic. It's not a wimpy wrap like you'd get at a Family Dollar or something like that.
No. This stuff, you can actually use the outer packaging. We would use it to do something that's called bandaging a sucking chest wound. It actually will help you create a seal if somebody were to be shot through the lungs.
That's right. You know what? That's an interesting subject too. We should probably cover that next week. A little bit of first aid, because how to cover that sucking chest wound is probably something everybody should know. Yeah,
definitely, especially in terms of hunting season is right around the corner. One of the things that I wanted to put out to folks is that if you haven't had a chance and you are planning to go use whether shotgun, rifle, or pistol out there in the woods, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and start investing in a first aid kit. And there are some ready-made first aid kits out there that are specifically made for hunters, folks that would come into contact with firearms or firearms-related injuries. And it's probably a very good idea to have something like that on hand, because if you're in an area where you may be hunting public land, every year somebody gets shot, and people don't necessarily always follow the rules that we put out there. And if you're going to be in a situation where you have to rely on yourself, if nobody else is around, putting a bandage on yourself can be difficult. So, we can talk about the different types of tourniquets to help stem bleeding, whether or not you want different types of bandages, whether you're doing pressure bandages to stem bleeding or whatnot. But take the time, do a little bit of research, and go out there and make sure that you're covered in the safety department, and of course following all the other regulations that you have in your state.
Now, the cost of some of these ready-made first aid kits can be replicated and cut to fractions if you make this kit at home.
Oh, certainly. And not only that, you would think that you can go buy a small first aid kit at a Walgreens that's, self-contained, and you probably get it for $10-15. I think the last time I bought one like that was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And that's just something that I keep in my truck underneath the seat. If you're in Europe, actually having a first aid kit in your vehicle is required by law all the way across the European Union. So I don't think that we have anywhere in the States that requires you to have that. I don't even think people are required to have warning triangles in their cars. But yeah, that's why if you've ever bought a Volkswagen, it always comes with a first aid kit and a set of warning triangles.
Volkswagens also have like the coolest toolkits of any kind of like new car.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely go out there and make sure you got a first aid kit with you if you're going to go out there and walk through the woods, because chances are you're going to be in a remote location. You're not going to be hunting your back 40 if you're doing public land. And, there's a lot of people out there that don't follow the rules and don't follow, the safety precautions that we subscribe to.
Yeah, very much so. Have you ever had to use any of the equipment from the MRE other than to seal the sucking chest wound? Have you had a chance to use any of that, any of the extra goodies that come like in the condiment pack or something?
Sure do. I've got a good story about that one. This was about 1998. I had just returned to the United States and was stationed in Texas, and was in charge of a group of 4 soldiers. So I had 2 soldiers who were specialist E4s, and then two private first class. And one of the private first class had a problem with staying awake on guard duty. Frequently come back to check on him, and he would be racked out, getting himself comfortable. So the the condiment pack with the McIlhenny and Company Tabasco sauce comes in very handy when you put it in somebody's eyes. They tend to stay awake.
Yeah, okay, that's what we would refer to as a gray label usage, right? There.
Yeah,
that's not necessarily the prescribed use for tobacco.
However, it does the job. Secondly, the creamer pack, the non-dairy creamer pack. A lot of folks don't know that in a pinch, that is a very good accelerant for a fire starter.
That's a good point. What about like potato chips or Doritos kind of chips?
Anything that you're going to have that has been cooked in oil or vegetable oil is going to be able to hold a flame. So if you even got, sometimes the newer MREs come out with corn chips that are similar to Fritos or Frito chips. Those actually hold a flame very long time for being such a small piece of food.
A small piece of petroleum.
That's basically what it is. So, if you've got a magnesium or a ferroceras fire starting rod, you can go ahead and keep yourself warm. Just getting that chip and use it as an extended match to go ahead and get some other tinder and kindling going.
Now, I really kind of hate to push the MRE issue any further, but do you have an absolute favorite? And it's okay to say no.
You're kind of looking at which shit sandwich do you like the most?
I'll take non-chunky, please.
Yeah, when it comes to the meals, honestly, if I got to choose one, I'll probably take the chili mac or whatever one comes with the pineapple flavored pound cake, because I can make the pineapple flavored pound cake just my meal in itself. Whether I stay away from the jalapeno cheese, the regular cheddar cheese pack or the white cheese pack is decent. But I'll tell you what, if you're going to be operating near an open flame, do not go there after you've had the jalapeno cheese pack.
Okay, now that's an interesting question here with these the cheese packs. These seem to be a bone of contention amongst people who consume MREs. Is that brownish cheese?
Well, no. Actually, it comes in a little brown plastic wrap.
Right, a little squeeze, kind of a squeeze.
Yeah.
Tube.
You have to knead the pack before you use it. Otherwise, it's very hard, very rough texture. Kneading it will actually break it up, and there's a little bit of material in there. I don't even know what it is, whether it's oil or whatever. But it actually helps make it easier for you to be able to. So, yeah, I think if I gotta have something, the grape jelly, the crackers, definitely gonna want to have the probably need to even have the drink pack mixes. Those are great. You definitely want to go ahead and make sure that anything that you do have, you gotta get it eaten and consumed quickly, because if you don't, you're taking it over time, and it's gonna kill you when you go to the restroom.
Well, they don't really give you enough toilet paper in those things to adequately use the restroom.
No. But like I said, I think that overall, if there are other food options available on the table, I will definitely go to those before I go to the MRE.
Yeah, I mean, things that people normally don't consider food, such as like happy, smiley pets.
Yeah, those are the first things to go.
Right. I mean, cat is food.
Yeah.
Bunny is food.
I can tell you that goat goes down pretty easily. It's not bad.
I'd like to, quote my boy Ron White when I say I know a Mexican boy who owns a Bic lighter and an onion who'd make you who'd make you cry with his goat.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that's interesting. It's not just one company that makes MREs, and I think that's it's important to understand is that different companies have proprietary menus. So depending upon the manufacturer and whatever batch or lot that comes in, you're only going to see certain menus.
All right, hey, we got a question out of the chat, and it's about Mountain House foods. And Mountain House is a little bit different than than an MRE. It's actually a dehydrated food, so you have to take and you have to add water to it. Mountain House entrees tend to be stuff that are like goulashes and teriyaki stir-fry mixes and things that are easily mixed with water and reconstituted. I found that they're a little bit expensive. They taste, I guess they're passable. I wouldn't want to eat it for 2 months in a row. they're very, very salty, which I find to be kind of a handicap when you're looking at a survival situation, because that requires you to use a lot more water, and water's heavy.
Well, not only that, I mean, you got to think that in the situation where you would likely be using that, probably be out in the woods, and water is a resource that you may not have fresh on hand, so you may have to sterilize your own water or purify your own water by boiling it. So that's going to take time. And
right, and I think these Mountain House entrees, I think I see the reason behind them, and I don't know. I can't say that I don't have any. I do have some of them. I have eaten them. I don't know if I'd buy them again in the future. I think that in regards to that, I think you'd be better served by buying, let's say a couple pounds of rice, a couple containers or a couple packages of top ramen, and some canned tuna or canned chicken or something, and going with that versus the Mountain House. I mean, yeah, you're carrying a little bit more weight, but you're getting a substantially better meal that way. I guess that's true survival food. Like, Jesus, we got to eat this stuff or die.
Well, and that's the thing. If you're looking at it for survival, you're not looking for taste. You're looking for caloric intake.
Right, and I think a lot of these Mountain House entrees are also rice based, and I think that's kind of cheating. Rice doesn't give you quite the nutritional density that you're looking for in that survival situation.
No, but
it does provide fluff, and it stops the hungry from happening.
Yeah, it
but
your body
you're not
believing that it's full.
Right. So I think in a lot of these things, like the MRE, it's cool to have a couple and throw them in your truck. In case something happens, you break down somewhere. Maybe if you have a go bag, if you've got someplace to go. I'm be honest with you, if you're going to bug out, you might as well bug out to your house. I just think there's money better spent elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really don't have an opinion on that specific brand, because honestly, I've had to eat MREs for the last 20 years, and I don't go out there and buy civilian versions of it, honestly.
Yeah, it's really not a civilian version. It's just some individual packages and some freeze-dried stuff, and well, I think they're just a little too expensive. They market them to backpackers and then to survivalists, and I don't know. I guess if you got to walk, backpack so far away from your house to eat that stuff, I guess that says something about it. I'll tell you what, we're getting real close. Let's tackle the 4 topics.
There you go. Let us hit it with it.
All right. Rule number 1 for gun safety: every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect that it is not loaded. So go ahead and crack open the action, flip open the cylinder, eject the magazine, pull the bolt back, drop the bracket slide back, make sure that there's no bullet in the chamber. Rule number 2 is make sure you know where your muzzle is pointing at all times. Don't cover that muzzle with anything you don't wish to destroy. Rule number 3 is know what your target is and know what is beyond your target at all times. And rule number 4, once again, the most important rule: ladies and gentlemen, please keep your booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon. We don't need any help in giving us a bad name.
Yeah, we can do that on our own. We don't need any help.
Pretty good at it.
Good. So, yeah, I think that if you're going to go out there and look for survival foods, you can't beat beef jerky. And I'm not talking about the stuff that you buy in the 1 pound bag for $50. I'm talking about
have you ever had
stuff that you smoked yourself.
Have you ever had the MRE beef jerky?
Oh, it's horrid. It's horrid.
It is. It really is. It crumbles. It's like dust. It's like meat dust compressed or something.
Yeah. So and like I said, the reason that you're going to have a lot of salt in those meals, regardless of the manufacturer, is that you're going to be taking in that salt because you're sweating during the day, you're getting rid of it, and that salt is what's reminding your body that you need to consume water. And you're going to need a lot of water to process that food and be able to take a turd that isn't going to tear the ass out of you.
I prefer not to sweat in the apocalypse. I like for the apocalypse to occur in front of an air conditioner.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. UCY.TV, your home for everything that you don't get anywhere else. Nick, thanks a lot, man.
No problem. Thanks, Jules. Thanks to guys in chat. We'll see you next week.
Everybody be good. Buy a gun, buy some ammo. Think about an MRE. Later.